Okay.
Okay, you're in, Peter.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up my cell phone then. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw his name.
There he goes.
There he is. Good morning, Peter. Councilmember Agabi.
Yeah. Sorry about the technology snafu. Must be the hit we're having. My internet is not working. So how you guys doing this morning? Hello?
We're good.
Okay. So welcome to I guess we are in a July 9 Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. And Kelly, can you please help me with the agenda? I can't bring that up because of the technology issue I'm having.
Yep, we're doing call to order and then roll call, which should be short and sweet.
Okay, so roll call. I see Kelly, and I'm here, and I believe Liera is out on excuse. So we're here. So what is the next agenda, Kelly?
Approval of minutes for the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting for June 11th, 2024.
Can I get a motion for that, please?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting from June 11th, 2024.
Thank you, Kelly. So second, I think that motion passes. I say yes. Kelly, what do you say?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess that passes. What's the next agenda, Kelly, please?
And the next agenda item is we have a Thurston County Prosecutor update.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Peter. It's nice to see you. I'm having exactly the same issue that you had. I got onto my computer this morning and it told me I needed a Zoom update. And the only person who could update it is my IT department. So I am on my personal iPad. So I made do with what I had. So anyway, it's nice to feel like we're kind of in the same boat here.
Thank you very much. So on that note, I'll let you continue with the update then. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought I'd give a few highlights as to what's been happening in our office, and then I definitely want to have an opportunity to take any questions that you might have in terms of what's going on as well. So I'll keep my kind of initial update somewhat brief and fairly high level. We are, in terms of our misdemeanor team, and one of the reasons that we are here giving you this update is that our misdemeanor team also acts as your city prosecutor by way of contract through the city attorney's office. So we continue to do the prosecution for both Tumwater misdemeanors under city code. And then we also obviously take all of the felony referrals that come out of the city of Tumwater as well, which was just part of our original jurisdiction. We have, the last time I looked at case numbers, which was just about a week ago or so, we had a little bit over 1,300 open misdemeanor cases, just to give you a sense of what our caseload is. I don't have the breakout this morning of what proportion of that is Tumwater cases, unless Christy has some newer numbers. But I know we are in the process of pulling those numbers because we're getting ready to do an update to the Tumwater contract, and we take a look at those numbers as we're going through that process. But I just wanted to give you a sense of the workload of our misdemeanor team right now. With that number of cases, that means each deputy prosecutor in my office has about 330 open cases that they're carrying. So the workload is really significant. Although it is actually a little better than it has been in the past, in the sense that the caseloads are kind of settling down a little bit. We just heard the district court tell us yesterday that from their perspective, it appears that we're back to the caseload numbers generally that we were pre-COVID in terms of the number of open cases getting ready, set for trial, those kinds of things, active cases in their system. I don't know what that means number-wise, but what the district court was telling us is that they feel like we've kind of made it through the COVID bulge, if you will, of cases, all those cases that were filed during COVID that were just sitting there for a while until we could get processing them again. And I do know that my lawyers have just put a tremendous amount of work into responding to all of those cases. So that was in some ways good news to us. But I just, just to be clear, that means that 1,300 open cases is pretty much the normal now. So that's what the caseload kind of looks like for us. Our biggest challenge really over the last year, a couple of big ones. The first has been hiring and retaining lawyers. About this time last year, give or take, I actually had 11 openings in my criminal division. And we have 28 lawyers now total in the criminal division. So it was about a third of the total capacity of open positions. So that, just increased the workload on all of the other deputies. So we've been putting a very concentrated effort on recruiting. That's actually been one of Christy's major focuses over the last year is recruiting and then onboarding new lawyers as we hire them. We created a program that we call Intern to Employment. And we have a very robust internship program. We always had. Several of those interns actually start out working in district court and would be working with Tumwater cases. Once they gain what we call Rule 9 status, which means they're actually licensed, they have a limited license to practice in the courtroom. And so if we have interns that are performing well and want to apply for full-time employment, they can actually do that before they take the bar exam. And assuming that they go through our process and they are selected for employment, we give them a provisional offer to join the office, conditioned on them passing the bar exam. So I think we've in total hired now about 4 lawyers, could be 5, through that program. And we have 2 in the pipeline right now. So we have 2 more taking the bar in just coming up very quickly in July sometime. And then they'll join us as interns again after they take the bar, and they'll get the results in the early fall. And assuming that they pass, they would be hired. If that happens, then we will be at a point where we will have only 2 openings from the 11 that we had last year. So it tells you we've been making fairly substantial progress. And in fact, we have interviews with 3 additional candidates coming up in the next week or so. So I think Christy and I are both feeling much more optimistic about getting us back to full staff at some point after it was feeling very stressful and bleak last year. But we're making our way back, and we've been doing a lot of things in the office to try to improve our onboarding, make sure lawyers are ready and integrated into the office a little bit better, and really working on the culture of the office, because essentially we have such a new team. I've got a lot of new young lawyers, which is nice in some ways because it brings all this new energy, right? I've got all these young lawyers that are ready to work and they're enthusiastic and they want to learn and they want to grow and they want to practice law. Love that energy, but we are having to really pay attention to our onboarding and training to make sure that we can get them up to speed. The second thing I was just going to mention in just a little bit of detail is the impact that on us of what I'm calling digital discovery. And what I mean by that is the changing environment of evidence that we are in right now in the whole criminal justice system. And this includes evidence that we get from cell phones during investigations, which is pretty much any kind of higher level felony investigation, perhaps even some misdemeanor investigations involving like domestic violence and so forth. Cell phones will be analyzed, of course, pursuant to search warrants and so forth. But cell phones will be analyzed, and we'll get evidence from those in the form of digital evidence. That could be call history, it could be text history, it could be location evidence, those kinds of things. Along with that, computers now are a good source of evidence, personal computers. But even beyond that now, the prevalence of surveillance cameras, just about every business and so many more homes with home security systems like Ring and the other ones that are out there have surveillance video. All of that video gets collected as evidence when it becomes relevant in an investigation. And then finally, the addition of dash cams and body cams. And I know that Chief Wicks has, I'm sure, more information on their status, but I know Tumwater is starting to ramp up into that area as well. Olympia has a full live body cam program, as does the county sheriff, as does Lacey PD, and the Washington State Patrol is just coming online with their body cam program. What that means is just about every case, from a traffic stop to a homicide, will have a significant amount of body cam footage that comes into us. So the first challenge of that is just managing it and maintaining it. We were getting, when the programs were starting to come online, about 2 terabytes of data a week, just in Discovery alone. I'm sure that's increased by now as the new programs have come online. And so managing that, storing that, dealing with all the discovery, because we've got to provide that to defense through the discovery process, has been a significant challenge. We are in the process now of just going live, acquiring and going live with a new software program called Justice Premier. It's put out by Axon, the company Axon, which does a lot of body cam. They have a large body cam business as well, where we'll be able to upload all digital evidence into the cloud, manage it in a cloud, so we won't have to have storage on site. We'll be able to provide it to defense directly through the cloud without it having to go through our network. And so we are all just like waiting on pins and needles to get that program to go through. Other than that, we continue to have good census in our therapeutic courts. Tumwater cases, both misdemeanor and felony cases, when they meet eligibility criteria, are able to go into our therapeutic courts. And we have Tumwater cases that are being put into therapeutic courts fairly routinely. We have also initiated the LEAD program, which is the law enforcement diversion program, but we've created a pathway for the prosecutor's office to also make use of that as well. So if we get a misdemeanor referral in from any agency, including Tumwater, that we feel would be a good candidate for a LEAD type diversion, we have the ability to actually do that diversion from our office now as well. And that is one of the paths we're trying to use as much as we can for misdemeanor marijuana charges, particularly if we have somebody who is dealing with a substance use disorder or other issues that kind of contribute to that, to those issues like housing, employment, those kinds of things. The kind of case management that LEAD provides can be really effective for those kinds of cases. And then finally, I just want to mention that there is in the works some public defense caseload standards that are being considered by the Supreme Court right now. You'll probably hear those if you get an update from the Public Defender's Office, who I think also contracts with you to do your public defense. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that those standards are not yet in effect. The bar, the Board of Governors for the bar has recommended standards to the Supreme Court, but it's now in the Supreme Court for review, and they are taking public comment through October to try to learn more about the impacts of these. But from my standpoint, this is purely talking to you as the county prosecutor. The caseload standards that are being considered would have significant financial impact because it would significantly reduce the number of cases a public defender could handle. To the point where our public defender is already estimating that he may need to hire up to perhaps 40 more lawyers just to handle the new standards if they were to go into effect. There's lots of debate going on. I'm sure you might even hear about this through the Association of Washington Cities because they're working on this issue because it's an issue across the entire state. Every city, every county in the state is looking at the possible impacts of this, but it could be a budget breaker. And already some communities are in the position where they've started having to they've had to select cases to not charge solely because there wasn't enough public defense capacity to do the cases even under current standards. But I just want to make sure that everybody knows that they're not in effect yet. There is time to comment to the Supreme Court. And I'm sure you'll be hearing more about this again from perhaps the association and other sources. And my association, the Prosecutors Association, we are also very active in providing comment and input on this as well. So just that's an issue that I'm putting on your radar that really doesn't affect us right now, the prosecutor's office right now, but it may have big impact on the city in the future. And I see Christy put her hand up.
Yeah, John, I just wanted to add to that because I obviously agree with everything you've just said. There was also a study just done, like a snapshot in time of public defender resources across all of the 39 counties. And Thurston County is actually one of the counties that has no need for public defenders. They're at full capacity. So you might hear other counties that, like John mentioned, that have primarily their eastern Washington counties, but some on western Washington that have a deficit of open spaces, of vacant spaces for public defenders, but that's not the case. And so when John mentioned that we had 11 vacancies about a year ago in the prosecutor's office, that wasn't the case in public defense. They were at full capacity and they remain at full capacity. So in Thurston County, there is not a deficit of public defense for the current caseload standards.
And so fortunately, we haven't been put in the position yet of having to choose or not choose to file cases based on public defense capacity. Yeah, so that's just a forewarning kind of issue. I think that's it in terms of what I would start with. And again, I am more than happy to answer questions.
John, thank you for the update. I do have a couple of questions. So I'm glad that Christy did talk about that currently in Thurston County we don't have where there is that issue has not shown itself yet. But in your update, you talked about the 2 terabytes of evidence per week. So if you're doing that per week, and we have this case at the Supreme Court that is going to either lower or talk about standard, how would that affect your copious amount of evidence per week going forward?
Well, there is some connection between the issues, but they are kind of facially separate. The discovery has to do with how we manage evidence that's sent to us by law enforcement. And so that really doesn't change depending on the defense caseloads at all. But what does, the way it does connect is that lawyers on both sides, both on the prosecution and the defense, we have to take the time now to watch all that video, right? So that we can actually look at and understand the evidence that's been sent to us by law enforcement. And so the more hours of video that are sent, the more time that gets invested into each case. And that could be a significant impact for workload and time for both sides, in all fairness, for both prosecution and defense, which is one of the reasons why we're also talking about if defense caseloads standards change, then we may need to look at prosecution caseloads as well, because we don't want to get so out of balance, right? That we've got significantly more resources dedicated to defense than we do to prosecution, and lose that balance between the two offices. So that's really kind of the connection. And the other thing I'll just note, this is kind of just anecdotal, is that sometimes the amount of evidence collected and sent isn't necessarily what we would expect for the type of case. But when you think about it, it makes sense. So let me give you an example. Let's say that we have a case involving a felony eluding. This actually happened a few weeks ago. So that means somebody who is being pursued by law enforcement for a felony charge now that they can pursue for felony charges. And this isn't, I'm not talking about Tumwater Police. This was actually a different agency that was involved in this pursuit. So it's a fairly long distance pursuit because the person is not yielding. It was a person who was considered to be, dangerous and met the criteria for the pursuit. But by the end of the pursuit, there was something like, 15 or 20 patrol cars all involved in the pursuit. And by the time the person was apprehended and taken into custody, there was at least 20 to 25 law enforcement officers all on scene. Every one of them had a body camera. Most of the cars had dash cameras. So we had literally, 30, 40, 50 hours of video for what historically in the old days would be essentially a police report talking about what the pursuit looked like. And we've got to go through all that. So it's really changed our entire environment in terms of how we look at cases and how we have to dedicate time to different cases.
Thank you very
John,
much.
can I just add one thing to that as well? Because it kind of ties into one thing that you talked about. We're actually experimenting this summer with expanding our internship program. I mean, we've always had, or we've had for several years, undergraduate interns in addition to law students in our internship program. But it's become even more important to have undergraduate students, because even though they're not, obviously law students and able to, appear in court, as John identified with some of our Rule 9 students, law students, the undergraduate students have been spending a great deal of time watching the body camera videos. And so that is something that an undergraduate criminal justice student can watch, some of these hours of video. The deputy prosecutor can ask them to target what they're actually looking for, and it actually saves a lot of time. And so we're hoping to keep that going during the school year. It's a little more challenging when we're down to just a couple colleges that have students that are local, because right now we have students from all over the country that are working in our program. But we're looking at that. I mean, it's not an answer by any means, but it's a help. So that kind of ties in something that two things that John had mentioned.
Oh, you muted again, Peter.
I was saying thank you, Christy. That's a very, very good observation and a very good addition to what John just said. Thank you. So on that note, John, if you don't have any...
Councilmember Agabi, I just wanted to take the opportunity to jump in quickly on the public defense caseload standards. If the proposal that's pending went forward, we have talked to the public defender's office, and they've said that our public defense costs would double. So I just want to throw that out there so that you're aware of it. AWC is definitely involved. They're doing some listening sessions that are available if you're interested in learning more about that. But certainly we'll keep you posted as that moves forward and let you know how that could potentially impact us. But I think what John and Christy were mentioning, even though we're not having an issue right now with public defenders, having enough of them, if something like this were to go into effect, think that could change because there would be, you know, almost double the number of public defenders needed, not just here, but everywhere. So I just wanted to add that quickly. Thanks.
So, thank you, Karen. John, it appears to me that you will have to give us a future update about this standard so that we're aware when and if that goes into effect, or if I thought you're going to be going into effect.
Absolutely happy to do that, and or work with Karen to provide whatever information you need as that moves forward. Absolutely.
Thank you very, very much. On that note, John, I thank you very much for your update this morning, which is very, very, very informative. On that note, I say go enjoy the sun and stay cool.
I will, and have a good rest
Have a
of your
good day,
meeting.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks for the
Thank
opportunity. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, Kelly, we are back to the agenda.
Yep. Next on the agenda is Homeland Security Region 3 Omnibus Mutual Aid Agreement.
Okay. And that is Chief Hawley. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, council members. I have just a brief presentation for you this morning, if you don't mind me sharing my screen. Let's see how successful I am. All right, how are we doing there? Okay. Well, just to start things off, you know, this is, let me just advance to the next slide and talk a little bit about Homeland Security Region 3 and what this agreement is about and what we're asking for today. So Homeland Security 3 region in Washington is Grace Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, and Thurston counties. This agreement is available really to most political subdivisions, cities, counties, tribes in the region to join and participate with this agreement. So really, what's the purpose here of Region 3? And Region 3 is really, a lot of it is an emergency management function in that it's coordination and cooperation with all hazards planning, preparedness programs, response, and recovery. And Councilmember Von Holtz, I think you'll recall we did, you know, this agreement was talked about at the executive seminar a few weeks ago by Chief Johnson. He gave a presentation on the incident management team that we'll touch on here in a little bit. So the participating agencies have expressed an interest to, you know, to help each other out basically and assist not just within counties. For instance, in Thurston County, we do have a mutual aid agreement amongst the fire departments, but this is much broader throughout the entire region and for really a number of resources, not just fire department resources. So in the event of an emergency, and we'll talk about what that is defined as in a minute, agencies can reach out for assistance in the terms of personnel, equipment, materials. So this may not be just a fire engine or a medic unit. This could be, you know, public works needs, backhoe, dump trucks, all types of equipment. And, you know, the recognition is that, you know, we do have a lot of resources, each jurisdiction, county, that could be shared. So the idea is let's have an agreement in place to allow us to do that, you know, in times of real need and an emergency. And really, this is a very long sentence, but it just talks about, you know, the breadth of emergencies we could see, human caused or natural, you know, from earthquake, you know, disease, civil disturbance, whatever emergency arises, this agreement would apply. A couple of key points: participation is voluntary. Even though we may be participating in this agreement, it's recognized that at any given time, our resources may be committed within our community, and we just may not be able to send resources upon request. And the other is that reimbursement is negotiable. You know, in many cases, you know, assistance could be shared and there wouldn't be a request, but in the case of larger scale, long-term emergencies, reimbursement could be requested through the normal processes and rates that are established statewide, really. I just wanted to give an example of you know, where, you know, this was used in the recent past. And if I don't know if you recall, but about 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago, in Montesano, there was a fire at a nursing home. And really, it turned into 2 emergencies, not just the fire itself. Fortunately, there weren't injuries related to the fire, but it devastated the facility. So not only are they trying to fight the fire and put out the fire, but they also had 77 residents who were displaced. And if you think about it, you know, this is a long-term care facility, a nursing home. You know, people have distinct needs. So the Region 3 Incident Management Team is a resource within the region that was activated. And that incident management team coordinated the transport of patients from really outside of Grays Harbor County you know, to regions. Ambulances and medic units came down from as far as King County to help transport those patients out to other facilities. In fact, Assistant Chief Cremens went down to Montesano and assisted with coordinating those transports. So this is just an example of a very practical thing that happened where this agreement came into play and resources were shared to remedy that complex situation. So our request today is to place the agreement on the July 16th council consent agenda with a recommendation to approve the agreement. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. So Kelly, look like we have a motion to move this to full council.
Yep, I move that we place the Homeland Security Region 3 Omnibus Mutual Aid Agreement on the July 16th, 2024 City Council consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second, and I vote yes.
I vote
How do
yes.
you vote? Okay.
And thank you, Chief Hurley. I mean, this is, you know, this takes me back to my emergency management days, and it's so important that communities are able to work together in case there is a major public health safety crisis. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Really, you know, there aren't many communities that can handle, you know, larger scale emergencies on their own, and we do need to rely on our partners. And you know, someday we may have to call in assistance, but we're always available to provide assistance when it's requested as well. So thank you.
Thank you again, Chief. So on that note, do we have anything on the agenda, Kelly?
We do. We have the interagency reimbursement agreement, IAA 25301, between Washington State Administrative Office of the Courts and the City of Tumwater.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give this one a shot, Councilmember
Okay.
Agave, but I am.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Okay.
I may need Karen's assistance on this one, but essentially this is an agreement that is identical to an agreement that we've had before. It covers the year from beginning July 1, I believe, through June 30 of 2025. And this is basically the reimbursement agreement between the Office of the Courts and the City of Tumwater, where there may be legal fees that get reimbursed to someone who was subject to the felony drug possession law that was found unconstitutional, generally referred to as the Blake decision. This just allows for us to reimburse any costs that we may incur if someone who is found to have been subject to this, one of these laws that was unconstitutional, requests that they be reimbursed their fees. It sets a maximum total amount of $28,507 that we could potentially recover. And I do believe that there is one change that is going to be requested of the courts, and that is to have this agreement be between the City of Tumwater as opposed to the quote unquote Tumwater Municipal Court. And so that's why the recommended action that's in your staff report includes the language to approve in substantially similar form as approved by the city attorney in the language of the recommended action. And with that, I can answer any questions, or more accurately, Karen can probably answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Or do we have Karen? Are you able to speak more to that?
I don't, that was a very good presentation, and I don't think there's really anything to add. We've had a similar agreement in place at least one previous time, if not two. This is identical to those. So far, we haven't had any Blake-related costs that have needed to be reimbursed. Troy can jump in if I'm incorrect there. But it seems like a good idea to have in place in case any of those expenses come up. If anyone wants to offer us money, seems like a good idea to take advantage of that. So thank you.
I'll just add that you are correct. There have been no expenses thus far.
And when I say that, I should say directly to the city. I think they've been absorbed primarily by the public defender's office and the prosecution, which we contract with. So thanks.
So on that note, I did not hear of any action on our part. Just more of an information only.
No, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
We have a recommended action, so I will move to place the interagency reimbursement agreement IAA 25301 between Washington State Administrative Office of the Courts and the City of Tumwater on the July 16th, 2024 City Council consent calendar, with a recommendation to approve in substantially similar form as approved by the city attorney and authorize the mayor to sign.
I second. And I also vote yes.
I vote yes.
So that item will be moved to full council. Do we have any other agenda item? Please, Kelly.
We do not.
So does anybody would like to speak to any additional item that was not on our calendar for today? On that note, Kelly, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I would move that we adjourn.
Okay, and we cannot debate that. I say let's go.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll see you guys this afternoon or this evening. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.